Palestine's economy has long suffered from decades of illegal Israeli occupation, but now it is in ruins. The war on Gaza and new Israeli restrictions in the occupied West Bank have caused tremendous damage. According to the United Nations, GDP is down by almost 27% across the state of Palestine since October. Poverty is up by more than 58%, and socio-economic development has been set back by more than 20 years. Israel's war has brought economic activity in Gaza to a standstill and caused widespread destruction of property and infrastructure. But it's not just Gaza that is struggling. Since October 7th, Israel has imposed new restrictions on movement that prevent about 150,000 Palestinians from travelling for work, leading to mass unemployment. Tourism used to be a major source of income for Palestinians, but since October, tourists have largely stopped visiting the occupied West Bank. Bethlehem, once a popular destination for Christian pilgrims, stands empty, its shops shuttered. Agriculture has also suffered from growing attacks by illegal Israeli settlers. In April, illegal settlers attacked the village of Al-Mukhayir near Nablus in retaliation for the alleged killing of an Israeli teenager. Trees were burned, crops destroyed, and livestock stolen.
In the morning hours, Israeli forces surrounded the village and closed all its entrances, and then the settlers began the attack, burning 27 houses and wounding around 27 residents, including children. Some of them were seriously injured. The Israeli forces did not try to stop the settlers' attack and even prevented ambulances from entering the village to evacuate the injured. This caused the death of one of the wounded.
This farmer described how he was shot in the neck as illegal settlers stole his goats. The Israeli government has failed to punish illegal settler violence. It has also withheld tax revenues from the Palestinian Authority. Israel is supposed to collect most of Palestine's taxes and transfer them, but the hardline government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stopped payments, forcing the PA to cut salaries. In May, the World Bank warned that the PA was at risk of fiscal collapse. The authority's economy minister painted a grim picture of the situation.
The Palestinian private sector can no longer carry out its services. The Palestinian government can't pay the salaries, and the economic will has stopped because of the Israeli procedures. But despite all this agony, bloodshed and economic hardship, our people are steadfast and determined to establish an independent Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital.
The US government has criticized Israel for withholding taxes. America wants the PA to help govern Gaza after the war, but it will not be able to do so if it is bankrupted. The Palestinian economy is on the brink of collapse. Only an end to the war in Gaza and a loosening of Israeli restrictions will start to revive economic activity. But for the residents of this desperate region, hope is hard to come by. Rupert Stone, TRT World, Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank.
Hello everyone. So I think after watching this video, you got a clear overview about what the topic is about. Our topic is about Palestine's economic challenges under occupation. And after watching the video, it's clear that Palestine's economy has long suffered from occupation. And now it is in ruins, especially after the new restrictions that were imposed since October 7th. Now I'm going to focus on two major issues. First issue is about restrictions on movement and access. The second issue is about Israel's control over borders and resources. These two issues are deeply connected and affect nearly every part of life and the economy in Palestine. From getting to work, to growing food, to accessing international markets, occupation plays a direct role. Now we look at this map. It shows everything about the restricted movement. In the West Bank, there are over 645 physical barriers, including permanent and temporary checkpoints. These fragment the land into isolated lands and prevent smooth travel between Palestinian towns. In Gaza, the blockade in place since 2007 means there's no airport, no seaport, and very limited land crossings. Just imagine that. And labor movement is heavily restricted. If I want to explain deeper, there are permits that are needed in order to work in Israel. And in Gaza, these are nearly impossible to get. It's really hard. Now, to move to the economic impact of restrictions, we have here a graph showing the GDP. These restrictions are not just frustrating, they are economically devastating. West Bank checkpoints alone cost 6% of GDP due to delays and transport issues. Ambulances are delayed 93% of the time when crossing checkpoints. In Gaza, unemployment is around 47%. And the World Bank even said Gaza's GDP could be 4 times higher without these movement restrictions. So imagine the impact these restrictions have on the country. Now, to move to the control over borders and trade. Palestinians don't control their borders. Everything must go through Israeli checkpoints. There's a system there called a back-to-back, where goods are unloaded and reloaded at borders, which adds time and cost. Israel also bans many dual-use items, things like medical lab equipment, fertilizers, construction materials. These are all banned, which makes it hard to produce, build, or even grow food in the country. It makes it a lot harder. Now, to move to the water control and land access. In this chart, we see that the average Israeli daily water consumption is 247 liters per person, which is approximately 3 times the 82.4 liters used by the Palestinians in the West Banks. So Israeli controls 80% of the water in the West Bank, and Palestinians need Israeli permission to drill wells, and the permissions are rarely given. So some Palestinian community survives on just 26 liters of water per day even, and that's half the minimum the World Health Organization recommends. At the same time, Israeli settlers nearby may use up to 700 liters per day. In Area C, which you saw it in the first picture in the map, the white part, which is 60% of the West Bank, Palestinians can't build or develop without permits, and those permits are almost never granted. Now, to move to the economic loss from these restrictions, all of this adds up together. The UN estimates show that 25% of West Bank GDP is lost every year due to land and resource restrictions. Over the past 20 years, the total loss is over $50 billion. That's more than double Palestine's annual GDP. Now, in order to conclude these two issues, of course, we're going to tackle more issues. My friends will be tackling them. The Israeli occupation affects the Palestinian economy at every level: movement, labor, water, land, trade. And these are not just temporary issues. They block the development, deepen poverty, and force dependency. But studies show that if these restrictions were lifted, the Palestinian economy could grow dramatically. Thank you.
To understand why the Palestinian economy struggles to grow, we need to start with geography, or rather, the lack of it. This map reveals a landscape that's not just occupied, it's fragmented. Since the Oslo Accords in 1990s, the West Bank has been split into 3 areas, A, B, and C. But Area C, which makes up more than 60% of the West Bank, remains under full Israeli control. It holds most of the natural resources, farmland, and open space, but Palestinians are denied meaningful access. The result: Palestinian communities have become disconnected islands, cut off from one another by a network of Israeli settlements, military roads, and over 500 checkpoints. A short trip from Nablus to Ramallah can take hours. Families are separated, goods are delayed, and the daily movement needed to sustain an economy, to work, trade, transport, is systematically obstructed. Then there is Gaza, physically and economically served from the West Bank since 2007. There is no regular movement of goods or people between these two. Isn't just a territorial issue, it's dismantling of internal markets and the death of economic unity. But fragmentation doesn't stop at these checkpoints. It extends into the economy's core, it's the finance. Here's how it works. When Palestinians buy goods, especially imports, Israeli collects the taxes on those transactions. These are called clearance revenues, and they make up over 60% of the Palestinian Authority entire income. But Israel controls the tap. It can, and often does, delay or withhold these funds as a political tool. This has led to frozen salaries, underfunded hospitals, and stalled development projects. Imagine trying to run a country when your income is held by someone else. To fill the gaps, the PA relies on foreign aid, shown here in the pie chart. Donors fund healthcare, education, salaries, but aid is inconsistent and politically fragile. It changes with the elections, foreign policy shifts and donor fatigue. Meanwhile, domestic revenue remain weak, not by choice but by design. Palestinians can't access Area C, can't build, can't expand, and can't trade freely. So there's little to tax, no room to grow. What we are left with an economy disconnected on the ground and dependent by design. The Palestinians can't control their land, and they don't control their money. This isn't just an occupation, it's economic architecture. It ensures that Palestine remains trapped, fragmented, dependent, and physically restrained.
Political occupation is more than just a territorial issue. It's a direct and ongoing barrier to sustainable economic development. In Palestine, decades of recurring conflict have systematically weakened the economy, making long-term growth nearly impossible. The destruction of infrastructure, loss of investor confidence, and restrictions on movement and trade have kept Palestine in a state of economic instability. Today, we will highlight how this factor continues to undermine development and what is needed to create a path toward economic stability. One of the most immediate and visible effects of political occupation is the repeated destruction of vital infrastructure. Roads, power grids, water systems, and communication networks, critical components of a functioning economy, are frequently damaged or destroyed in conflicts. This not only disrupts daily life, but also makes it extremely difficult to rebuild and maintain economic activity. Take, for example, Gaza, where repeated military operations have left factories, businesses, and even hospitals in ruins. Without reliable infrastructure, businesses struggle to operate, farmers cannot efficiently transport their goods, and families lack access to basic services. Even when international aid is provided for reconstruction, the lack of long-term security means that projects are often temporary solutions rather than sustainable developments. Beyond physical destruction, occupation also creates deep economic uncertainty, which drives both domestic and foreign investment. No investor wants to risk capital in a region where conflict can erupt any moment, where trade is restricted, and where property rights are insecure. Without investment, job creation stagnates, business cannot expand, and innovation is stifled. The banking and financial sectors in Palestine are also affected. Limited access to international markets and banking restrictions prevent Palestinian businesses from engaging in global trade. In turn, this creates a cycle of dependence on foreign aid rather than self-sustaining economic growth. Many young, educated Palestinians are forced to leave in search of better opportunities elsewhere, leading to a breakdown that further weakens the country's economic prospects. So, what needs to change for Palestine to achieve sustainable development? Three fundamental factors must be addressed. First, sovereignty. A stable and independent economic policy is impossible without political sovereignty. Palestine needs control over its borders, trade policies, and financial institutions to build a strong economic foundation. Access to resources. Land, water, and energy are essential for any economy. Restrictions on resources and industrial use limit agricultural productivity, keeping the Palestinian economy from reaching its full potential. And finally, a political resolution. Sustainable economic growth cannot happen in an environment of ongoing conflict. A just and lasting political solution is necessary to ensure stability, attract investment, and allow long-term economic planning. Ultimately, economic development in Palestine is not just an economic issue, it's a political one. As Nobel winning economist Amartya Sen said, freedom is not only the ultimate goal of development, but also its primary means. Without political freedom, economic prosperity remains out of reach. It's crucial for the international community to recognize that a stable, self-sufficient Palestinian economy is not just beneficial for Palestine, but for the region and beyond. Sustainable development can only happen when occupation ends, sovereignty is respected, and Palestinians have the opportunity to build their future free from conflict and restrictions.